beware.
Hello, my fellow Skype callers, and welcome back to Viewer Beware. It's the only show where we go over each and every episode of the Goosebumps TV series, and today we have a special episode with Welcome to Dead House. Now, this is a special episode not only because it's a two-parter, but because it's our first ever episode about zombies.
Wait, didn't we have mummies? Those are undead.
Well, sure, you can argue that the two episodes about the mummies are technically The Walking Dead, but the rules for zombies and mummies are wildly different.
Oh, please, do tell.
Well, I will. So, the biggest difference is that a mummy is just a singular dead guy, sometimes some minions, but usually it's just like a really old wizard. He has like magic powers, but, shambles around like a dead guy. And with zombies, they're a swarming hunter, sort of like a pack of piranha. And that's the case in our episode tonight, Welcome to Dead House, where we see a family move into a dilapidated town, and their neighbors are a little bit odd. And sure, we've seen it before, but have we seen it with construction workers busting out of the wall? Maybe. I mean, I'm not an expert, but perhaps. But we're going to see it again anyway, just in case. So, get ready to move the dead house.
Hello.
R.L. Stein pops back in to give us an intro. It's always good to see the goat.
Welcome to Dead House.
We then cut to a family moving into an ominous town called Dark Falls, where the weather report pops on to claim there may be sunshine at some point. The kids in the back, Amanda and Josh, are complaining the whole time about how dead and dreary the new neighborhood is. But their dad assures them that he got a really good deal on the house, so that makes up for it.
Great, we're moving to a place that's totally dead.
You could also get a sweet deal on a Porsche if someone gets murdered in it, but you don't see me jumping at the opportunity. When the Benson family finally arrives at their new house, their dog Petey takes off, almost sensing how haunted this house is about to be. Amanda goes off looking for Petey until she encounters an old man just waiting in one of the bedrooms. Mr. Dawes is apparently a real estate agent that sold the house to the Benson family and fell asleep waiting for them to show up. Either way, Petey isn't a fan of him. He shows the family around while they begin unpacking and begins acting strangely when the mom pulls out her good luck wreath, becoming noticeably more skittish after it's hung.
One of the pleasures of my job is bringing in new families into our community.
That night, Amanda is writing a letter to her friend back at her old town, explaining why they have no furniture and have to sleep on the floor. Before finally going to bed, Amanda decides to close the window to reveal she was being watched the entire time. But even creepier, there's a total stranger roaming the halls. Amanda, Josh, and their parents search the house for the boy in the old-timey hat, but cannot find a trace of him anywhere. Deciding to go back to bed, Amanda has a new fear of the house and the people they are now surrounded by. The next morning, while the movers are loading up the house with furniture, Mom gets a visit from the neighbor Agnes, who looks rather sickly, but hey, we aren't here to judge. Agnes drops off coffee and muffins for the new residents, and just like Mr. Dawes, gets sketched out by the family wreath.
She's gonna be just thrilled that our new neighbors have kids.
Amanda and Josh decide to stroll around town with Petey and notice the whole place looks like the set for The Walking Dead. As soon as they finally see someone outside, Petey starts barking his head off at them, forcing the kids to move until they get to the woods, where they are seemingly about to get jumped by the neighborhood kids. As the kids surround the siblings, Amanda notices the boy that was roaming her hallway last night.
I used to live in that house
You did?
when I first moved to Dark Falls.
Well, where do you live now?
Brushing off how weird that was, the kids in town all flee as soon as the sun comes out, adding to the weird mystique of the town. As Amanda is sleeping that night, she's woken up by another girl with a warning.
Get away. Get up while you can. Get away.
The family, rushing to answer her screams, doesn't see anyone else in the room, but Petey starts barking again, the same way he does anytime he sees a resident. The parents are quick to dismiss their daughter's fears because, after all, they did get a really good deal to move into the 28 days later village. The next day, Dad patches up a hole in the wall and assumes that will put his daughter's mind at ease. As Amanda vents her issues, Dad finally reveals why the house being cheap is such a big deal. He's apparently using the profit of selling the old house to fund his dream of writing a book. So Amanda decides she's going to try to make this work. While the kids are unpacking the leftover boxes, Josh drops some coins down a wrecked cellar door, but manages to fish it out before anything too creepy happens to him. Weird, right? But anyway, that night, Amanda is preparing for another night visitor by laying out bubble wrap to catch any footsteps. But it's not footsteps that wake her. Once again, the family gathers in Amanda's room to see the punched drywall, before Petey snatches something off the ground and runs off with it. When Amanda catches him, she sees it's an old newspaper with a headline about the local chemical plant blowing up and killing several people. The next day, Dad brings in Mr. Dawes to answer for why he hid that information in the retail listing. But Mr. Dawes essentially gives him the "you get what you pay for" spiel and dips out. After that, Amanda is writing another letter to her old friend when a neighborhood kid introduces herself and explains she also used to live in the same house.
I guess I just wish we picked a different house to live in.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I moved in.
Strange. When Amanda is showing the neighbor girl Karen around the house, Amanda explains how uncomfortable she's felt here, and Karen explains that the wreath on the wall is the source of this strangeness, and Amanda should get rid of it ASAP.
Well, it's just like in those scary movies, when the family brings something old into the house and then bad things start happening.
Interrupting the girls, Josh comes into the house panicking that Petey has gone missing, and reveals a large hole in the fence, prompting the kids to run through the woods looking for him. Eventually they spot the dog, but he is acting strangely and seems to avoid the kids, eventually leading them to an old cemetery. While searching among the gravestones, the kids begin to hear a heated conversation and decide to sneak up on the congregation of adults talking about how hungry they are.
Look at me! I don't have any more time. I need to feed now!
As the kids watch, Amanda steps on a branch that alerts the adults, showing that they all have gray skin and scars. So the kids run away before they're eventually caught by the neighborhood kids.
Do you remember me?
Ray!
I'm the Watcher. I lived in your house. Your room was my room.
Your room?
Before I died. They needed my blood to stay alive.
And now we need yours. Please don't be afraid.
The kids keep running to avoid getting their blood stolen from them until they get back home and barricade the doors. Their parents, who are hosting the neighbors, tell them to calm down, but the neighbors very quickly agree, and the kids help them block the entrances.
Would someone tell me what's going on here?
It's The Walking Dead.
The what? It was the accident at the chemical plant. All those who were contaminated, they became the living dead.
And now they need the fresh blood of the living.
Right at about this point, Amanda should sense that something is up because she saw Karen with the kids she's calling zombies now. But I guess in the heat of the moment, you could forget that fact. Amanda and Karen blame the happening on the wreath, causing Mom to burn it. But soon after, it's revealed they made a grave mistake.
It didn't work!
Josh!
You thought that wreath would keep you safe. Well, you were right.
But now it's gone. You just destroyed the one thing that could protect you.
If it hadn't have been for that annoying little wreath, we would have fed when you first moved in.
The family is surrounded by zombies and retreats upstairs while people are literally crawling out of the walls and floors to eat them.
Here we all are.
No speeches there! I'm starved!
Eventually, the family is cornered in the attic, and the zombies grab the parents to decide who gets to eat first. Amanda realizes that the sunlight was keeping them away the whole time, so she unblocks the windows to let the sun in, causing the zombies to disappear into steam, leaving behind piles of clothes. The Benson family takes their opening to run out to their car and leave immediately, while the zombies start to rise again.
Is there something you don't like about the house? We can talk about it.
Zombies are getting ready to move in here. We can refinance.
Please. You don't seem to understand.
miles down the road, the family notices Petey on the side and decides to pick him up.
Oh! What's wrong with him?
Putting the cream on, the rash will go away eventually. So, anyway, the Benson family did make it out of the house, but Petey the dog did not make it out unscathed.
Pour one out for the dog.
R.I.P. Petey, you're one of the good ones. But in the episode, they kind of imply Petey's demise. I mean, after all, you do have to die in order to come back to life as a zombie. But in the book, the zombies explicitly tell the family in that final chase scene, hey, we killed your dog because it detected us from the start. So a little more grim, a little more direct. And that's generally how the book goes. It's a little bit more graphic in its detail and more straightforward. Like in the book, there is no magical wreath that protects the family from zombies. There's no ghost girl that warns the family to get away. And also, when the sunlight hits the zombies, they don't dissolve into smoke. They actually have their flesh and muscle fall right off the bone.
That sounds pretty hardcore.
It really does. And those changes would make this more of a traditional zombie story, more so than a Goosebumps story, if you get what I'm saying, and I think you do. As it is, this is probably one of the more terrifying Goosebumps episodes out there. I mean, that final chase scene where all the zombies are busting out of the walls and the floorboards, it's all so terrifying and bleak, especially when you consider that the zombies' entire MO is to move families into that specific house and do that same routine to them. We've seen in the episode that 2 kids said that their families lived there before, so that means 2 families have met their end that same way. And it's not crazy to think that every single kid we saw had their family die in the exact same situation. That's dark. But this lore of the Dead House is extremely dark, and it almost doesn't fit the kids' horror version of the series we've seen so far. I mean, in the past few episodes, we've seen a magic typewriter and alien cookies. We haven't seen families getting wiped out by getting eaten by a swarm of villagers. That doesn't happen. And this dark tone is built masterfully. I mean, the stalking scenes are so creepy. We even get some background lore with the chemical plant blowing up and causing the zombies to happen. And we see family after family move in and get eaten. And then that final chase scene is horrifying. The way that they pin them up into the attic and they plan on who gets to eat first, scary. And so for all of these reasons, I'm going to have to give Welcome to Dead House 5 out of 5 on the bump scale. Check it out, please. But also, do not move into a town that, has all the houses overrun. So, I mean, avoid, Detroit or Cleveland. I feel like this story took place in Cleveland. Stay away. But thank you for coming back to Viewer Beware, and I'll see you guys on the next one.